What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. Ruger LC Carbine and 10mm 16-inch carbine testing continued. Today we have another highly requested ammunition for this testing series. This is one that we've already put into our handgun series for 10mm. You should definitely check out that video. This is an odd round. This is a solid copper spun tumble upon impact. So they're intending it to go in there and not expand or anything like that, but tumble around and do a bunch of damage that way. So this is a 125 grain solid copper projectile. It has a flat tip to it, so that could be the perfect profile that they've come up with that makes the tumble happen. Here's what one of the projectiles looks like that have been fired out of a handgun previously. Just a total solid copper, no hollow base to it or anything like that. It has a couple bands to go ahead and engage the rifling, and that's about it. Like I said, it has a flat tip to it, and that could be just enough to get this thing going off kilter. So for comparison, we have a 16-inch barrel on the Ruger LC Carbine. We'll also be using the Colt Delta Elite 10mm again. That is a 5-inch barrel, so we should get a pretty good difference in velocity. The velocity seems to get better with the lighter projectiles out of the longer barrels. Once you get up to the 200 grain projectile weight, you don't see a whole lot of velocity usually, but the lighter we go, we're definitely seeing a difference. So it'll be interesting to see how much velocity we pick up over a 5-inch barrel, and then what does that translate to in the gel. We're going to be using two 20-inch blocks of 10% clear ballistics gel. This one's been remelted and has no strikes. This one has a couple strikes, but it's basically going to be a catcher block. I think we'll be able to see things if they go through the first 20 inches. These are shooter's blocks, though, like I said, 20 inches. So when you're using 16-inch blocks like most people use, it's going to look a little bit different. So keep that in mind if you're comparing this to other tests you've seen of 10mm in a 16-inch block. These are a lot longer in relation to those 16 inchers. We're going to try to double down on the velocity catching. Sometimes the sun's funny here, but we have the Garmin. And then right in front of the gel that we hit, we'll have the Caldwell. So I definitely think this is going to be pretty interesting. Hopefully we don't veer out of the block or do anything weird like that. But testing explained, let's get to shooting. All right, we're about 15 feet off that target. I'm still trying to figure out where to set this Garmin chronograph exactly for our testing purposes. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Hopefully today it does. I'm going to try to punch the top left part of that block a little bit. I got to stay somewhat towards the center because of the tumbling effect. Hopefully I get a good shot. I really hope that got captured on some sort of microphone. The gel actually just made like an exhaust sound. It just went phew, and it kind of squirted out. That was weird. So the block farted. I've never actually heard a block fart. That was really interesting. 1493 on the Caldwell up there and 1532.6 on the Garmin. All right, I really do hope that came through on camera because that was a pretty cool little sound. But anyway, there's our entrance. It's pretty clean. You don't see any of that crazy burning effect or anything like that. Let's go ahead and move on to the side. You can see some stuff happening there for sure. There was a tumble effect. I got to try to get out of the shadow part here. We have really bad lighting on this range. Sorry. All right, I think I have the focus dialed in there. So you see it enters and it doesn't do a lot of crazy disruption, but it does do some disruption depending on what angle you can look at it from. It definitely has some ducking and diving. Now we do have a big what must be a tumble right there because there is no hollow point or anything to do that. So that has to be some form of cavitation tumble, whatever, somersault. And then it seems to maybe straighten itself back out or at least have less violent of a tumble. And then it seems to do something right as it leaves that first 20 inches of block. I'll come up here from the top so that we can continue to see that. It's going to look a little different. You can probably barely see it, but it started to get moved around a little bit, jumped into that block, and then you're going to see it scooted upwards and it landed right there. It almost tried to come out. I can kind of feel it there. I'm going to say we landed right at 29 inches. So that's pretty darn good penetration for a 5-inch 1911. Of course, the bullet's not going to be deformed or anything like that. There's not a lot stopping it. This is ballistics gel block, so I don't know how this would perform in anything else, but we did get 29 inches of penetration. This might prove to be a little bit too much for these two gel blocks when we move this up to the carbine. Let's move up to the top and see if I can get you any kind of a view from that angle. All right, you're going to see a little red, white, and blue here and there because we have the tent on top, but there is the entrance. Goes ahead and follows down pretty consistently until we get to that big disruption point. Now that disruption point, it travels from about the 10 to 16 inch mark for sure. Levels back out again. Like I said, does a little bit of a turning, something right there. And then wham, ends up right there at the edge of the block, almost comes out, but just ran out of steam. Has a little bit of a gas pocket, bubble of air around it, something it couldn't get rid of in its fart. All right, well, let's see if we can improve upon this track here once we put this in a 16-inch barrel. I'm assuming we're going to dive a little bit deeper. All right, 16-inch barrel. Everything else is the same. This should be interesting. I have a little bit of a hold over here, so hopefully I can pop it in the right place. Guess we have a safety on. I think we got it exactly where I wanted to. That made the block jiggle a little bit. The Garmin says 1834.9. The Caldwell says 1801. Let's go take a look. I would say we punched it in a really good place right there to be able to see through these two blocks. We have a separated path. I'm going to have to grab the tent in here in a second, but for now, I think we're pretty good. We can straighten this out really quick and we can go right to talking about it. So we do have the kind of, wow, that's interesting. They just opposited each other. So they kind of look like the butterfly paper thing, but you see the same disruption in the same place. You may see, it could just because we're a little bit closer, you may see a little bit more disruption in the initial path, but we have the same tumbling happening at the same place. Man, I can't talk today for anything. But one dives up a little bit and one dives down. So we did land down there. Let's get this straightened up a little bit more. So that thing is landed right there. It kind of did skip off the bottom. I think it dented the cardboard just a hair, but it is at 28.5 inches. The angle might be a little funny. It's facing forward as far as I can tell, but there really wasn't much of a wound track. It kind of did a little bit of a disruption as it entered the second block, kind of like the other one did, but got in there, scooted along the bottom of it, and I don't think it lost a whole lot of energy. There's a little bit of a rubber mat underneath that cardboard, but that's where it landed, 28.5. So almost made it to 29. It's interesting. We increased velocity, but it really didn't go that much farther. It didn't really have that much of a difference in its wound channel. So yes, we did increase the numbers, but did we really increase the performance? According to foot-pounds, we sure did, but according to effects on block, I'm not sure. Let's take a look from the top. All right, so from the top, we really do have very similar entrance wound and initial channel. Those things really did mimic each other right there where they started the tumble. They look a little different from the different angles, but they kind of slowed down. I would say that the first shot out of the 1911, that might have settled down a little bit later, maybe about a half of an inch or so. Sorry, you guys can see all this shadow. But again, it settled down to its little piercing wound cavity. It jumped a little bit around when it got into that next block. Understandable. There's a little tension around the edge of the block. And then boom, it's actually landed backwards in that one, as I showed you before for the pistol. But for this one underneath it, follow that same wound track. Same thing's going on. Jumped around. I'll have to separate that out. You can see it down there a little bit. You can see it there a little bit better underneath. Ended up landing right there, so you just can't see it that good from the top, but very close performance out of both of them. All right, here we go. There's the 1911, and there's the Ruger LC Carbine. You're going to notice the one from the Carbine, it did exit the block right here. So I would say about 1 centimeter high is where it exited this first block and jumped into the next one. You're going to see where it disrupted this cardboard underneath it. However, it didn't really leave the gel block. It rode the edge of it very hard. When I finally dug it out right here at about 28.5 inches, I had to actually get it out of the block. It didn't do the whole jump out and jump back in thing. It just had enough power and energy right there to disrupt that cardboard. So after explaining that, obviously they don't deform any. They're not going to be losing weight. I'll still measure them for you anyway. I'll measure the one out of the pistol first. So 0.399. That's not a big deal after going through a barrel. And the same thing for the one that came out of the carbine. The projectile from the 1911 is 124.8, and the projectile from the carbine is 125 on the head. If we add them both together, it'd be nice to get exactly 250, but you won't because you have that little variance, so 249.5 between the two of them just about. So like always, there's the information. Use it as you see fit. We did see a difference in numbers, but numbers are numbers. Theoretically, there should be more energy on target, but we really didn't see it translate in gel. But that's gel. As far as pistol or carbine for the use of this particular cartridge, I don't know. There could be a slight difference, but to quote one of my favorite YouTubers of all times, is it enough difference to make a difference? Let us know in the comments what you think about the tumble upon impact out of the carbine, or the difference between these two. Would you use it? Do you use it? Do you see a use for it in this carbine? Check out our playlist because we've already done a lot of testing with this Ruger LC carbine. In case you've missed it, we're going to be doing more ammunitions in the future. Some of them, it really makes a huge difference. Some of them, not so much. But overall, we're hoping you're enjoying this testing. Hope to see you at the next video. Thank you for watching this video. And until we see you next time, stay safe, have fun, and keep shooting. Definitely rock the 10mm.